Hello, today we'll be learning another tool called the group tool. This is not actually a tool, but it is a tip or a trick or a shortcut, whatever you call it. So this tool is used to group icons together. Let me just start by explaining what grouping means. Grouping means assigning a uniformity between a couple of vector shapes, which means you are trying to make these vector shapes belong to one group or section of the design. Okay, so if you look by the right side, let me zoom closely so you can see. Look by the down right side, you will see some arrow pointing at one layer and the other at the other, and some others don't have any layer they are pointing at. This arrow signifies that this layer is grouped. These are group of icon in a particular layer. So with that being understood, it means you can assign a couple of vector shapes to be in a particular layer and the others without being grouped. Now, why do you group? Why will you group in Illustrator? Why will you group in your design? I'm going to show you that in practical, but before then, I'll have to tell you what that means. Grouping in Illustrator means you are taking components of layers to place them in a well organized form, making them look as though they are a single format. When you use the selection tool, you are making them look as if they are a single format, but when you use the direct selection tool, they are no more like what you think. That doesn't mean they are not grouped anymore. I will show you what that means. So in this particular design we made, this tool, this design, actually the one in the middle, is actually grouped. Let me show you why. When you select the direct selection tool and you click on it, you see it selects everything in there, which means you can move this around, leaving the other ones untouched. But when you select the direct selection tool, look at what happens here. You can only move one particle of it away and the other particle of it away, and every other particle can go their own ways. Okay, so let me tell you how that works. So if you come to this section, you will see a group. So let me ungroup this first. Before, remember I said you select the selection tool, you can now select everything. So for instance, this one too, I click on it, everything is selected. With direct selection tool, everything is not selected. You can select only one away from it. Okay, the same thing applies to every other thing you are going to do here. So the direct selection tool, the selection tool selects a group, and the direct selection tool doesn't select a group. The direct selection tool selects the direct layer or icon you are pointing at. So for instance, this. So with this being understood, let's dive into the practical and proper. So when I select the selection tool, I can select everything here. I can select everything here. Now I'm going to ungroup this. The shortcut to ungroup is Control Shift and G. Everything is ungrouped. Look at the right side. What's happened? Let me go back. Let me recap what I just did. Look, concentrate on this side. Okay, concentrate on this angle. Concentrate on this angle. See what happens to this group. You see this arrow here will disappear, and everything will pour down in the same line with this. They are not going to go in a subsection of this layer. Okay, just watch closely. I'm going to zoom out now so I can do this while you watch it. So I hold the Control key and the Shift key, then I hit on the G key. You see everything, boom, everything is off. So these are not in group anymore. So which means when you select the direct selection tool, you can move this separately because it's not in a group, and when you select the selection tool, you can also move it separately. So if you select the selection tool, you click here, you see you're only selecting only this one, and when you select the direct selection tool, see the same thing happening. Okay, so now you understand that. I'll have to teach you something else, but I have to move this out so it won't conflict while I'm selecting it. So now let's assume you ungroup this, Control Shift and G. It has been ungrouped. So now we want to group only this face. What you got to do is click the layers you want to group, select the both of them. You can also add this leaf here. Then what you're going to do is click Control and G. Control and G groups layers when you select them. So which means if I use the selection tool and hit on any of the icon that have been grouped with the order, it is going to select the group. You see what happens here? So selection tool actually selects a group, and direct selection tool actually selects a particular layer. Okay, so now let me take, for instance, I select this tool and also this tool, these two. Now before you, if you want to select two or more icons, let me select everything here and ungroup it. I'm ungrouping. Very good. So I want to select this icon and also the circle here. What you do is you hold the shift key while you click. So when you click, the shortcut is hold the shift key, then you click another, keep holding the shift key, you click another, keep holding the shift key. You can keep clicking until you are satisfied with the amount of or layers or icons you want to group. So when we are satisfied, what you do, you release the shift key while you leave your mouse. So now you can click, hit on the Control and G. So which means next time you select on the selection tool and you hit, is going to select all the layers you have grouped, which means these layers have been grouped in this very grouping section. So with that being understood, today you have understand why you the way to group stuffs in Illustrator. Now what you don't understand is, why do you group? Because that's the next question that comes in mind. Why do you group? Why do I group these stuff? Why do I group this stuff? The question is this: why do you have a family? Okay, you have a family because you want to be united, you want to move together, you want to know how one of or each of one or the other of your group members feel or how they are doing. So this is practically the same thing with grouping. So when you select everything and you group these things, remember I said to ungroup, you have to select everything, hold the Control and Shift. I'm repeating this so you don't ask questions regularly. Watch the video thoroughly before ask questions. So when you select everything and we grouped these things, now what it means is this: we want these things to be easy for us to move around. This is the purpose of grouping. We want this to be easily moved around. So let me show you how complex this is when you want to work with moving these things to a particular angle. So let me take, for instance, I ungrouped all these things. They have been ungrouped. So for instance, I want to move everything that is here inside this box. Okay, let me not even say that. Let me make it more complex so you can understand in a better way. So we have this icon selected and pushed inside this circle, and it's overlapping this circle in a way that we will find it difficult selecting all these things by just selecting the selection tool and holding and dragging. You understand that if you hold and drag at an edge without conflicting the other, you can now move around. Okay, but this is the problem we'll be facing here. You can't hold and drag around this, because if we want to select only the icons in the middle, exempting the circle. You understand? So when we try to select everything, we will have a problem because circle will be selected too. So since if it is not grouped, let me take, for instance, let me ungroup it. Very good. So if it's not grouped, we find it difficult selecting everything, but that doesn't mean we can't select everything. Look at how we are going to select everything if you want to do so. So you have to zoom in, you have to select your zooming tool, and you can zoom in and zoom in until you get to the angle. You can see everything very clearly. Now you can start selecting one after the other, one after the other by holding the Shift key. Remember, you can start selecting one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, until you select all icons. But here is the problem we have. Watch what happens. Watch what happens when we try to drag up. You see it leaves some parts of it here, making our design look a kind of squashed or a kind of distorted. Why is this so? Let me show you why this is so. Why it is so is because if you use the selection tool to select the direct selection tool to select a particular layer, and you click on the edge of that layer, some of the parts of that layer will not be assigned to your movement. Let me show you why. Look at what happens here. When you see these icons, it means this particular angle have not been selected. So let me select everything now, show you. You won't see that angle. You see there's no angle there, but when we select a particular angle, it's telling us when we click on the edge of an icon from a far distance, it's very tiny, remember, so you don't know if you click on the edge or if you clicked on the middle, because your mouse might be very big. Zooming very close to select everything is a very rigorous work to do. That's why you have to group. So selecting an edge simply means I want to change the shape of this particular icon. Okay, that's what it practically means. I want to change the shape of this icon. And when you are not doing so, you are trying to move this thing away, you will have a problem moving this stuff away. You have a huge problem moving it outside your wheel. So that's what happens here when we select this tool and we try to move something around, especially when it's from a far distance. We click to move it around, we have these squished issues. So but when we select everything in that angle and we try to move it around with the selection tool, you see you don't need to zoom in before you see you can move it around now. So okay, with that being understood, it means yeah, we have now understand why we have to select this. Another reason why you have to group is because if you are trying to apply a gradient color to this, it is very easy to do. So when we select everything, we select the color picker, we can now pick on our color. It applies the gradient tool in a way you don't understand now. Let me show you what that means. Look very closely to every letter here. You see every letter have their own gradient separated. Okay, their own gradients are separated. Let me show you what that means. You see, we can now apply a kind of gradient format to this, whereas we can also select and apply another kind of form of gradient to this. So with that being understood, if you select everything here and you select a particular color and you didn't group it, see what you are going to get. See what you're going to get. You're going to get something like this. You see that? The gradient is now falling from the, will I call it, west to the east. Okay, the gradient is now falling from the west here to the east, against what we have before. Each gradient have been assigned to one particular icon, which is the same problem we are having here. I don't know if this have a gradient. Okay, have a gradient. So we selected everything, and that's why the gradient is this way. The same applied to this. So those are just the few reasons why you have to do your grouping, so you can be able to move stuffs around yourself with the selection tool. Remember, move stuffs around with the selection tool. Then with this direct selection tool, you can remember if we group this, which means we are planning to move everything here at once. Okay, which means makes our work very easy for us. You see, you can move everything around, whereas you can also select them one after the other to move them around. So when you are doing very complex works, this is not a complex work. When you are doing like mascot logo design, that you have tiny icons, and like you have to draw some kind of icons that are very observe. You can't observe those icons from a very far distance. It will become a shape or it become a real life image, but when you zoom very closely, understand these are vectors. Those icons that have multiple anchor points or multiple layers on it, you have to group them so you can move them easily around. Okay, so that's the reason why you group, and that calls to the end of our tutorial today. Welcome back once more. This is our first tutorial for a very long time, and I hope you guys understand this very well, coupled with the gradient tip I just gave at the end. So try to practicalize this. Understanding it makes things very easier for you to do. Once again, this is Manuel signing out from CatersGraphix.